So now we want to start talking a little bit about how to use the shape building potential that is in Illustrator. And so this is a place where you can get things can get really sophisticated and really kind of like overwhelming if you're not careful. But I mean, just a really fast, easy way to think about it would be sometimes you'll end up building like a complicated shape. Like again, these are my really bad examples. If you want to see good examples of like really excellent art, there's a lot of places you can go to see that. These are just my spots that these are my examples I'm building up for you. But let's say you wanted to build a symbol that looks something like that, right? Right now that whole thing is a bunch of different shapes, which can be fine. And it's, you can see they're all individual shapes. And if I want, I could shift click on all of them and then just hit Command G or group, and it'll group them all together, right? So sometimes that's nice, it moves them together, but every once in a while you want to like have a piece that just doesn't have all the little bezels like you would. What if I wanted to make like one long shape out of this, or even more if I like grabbed my pencil tool and I drew something like this in there, and I wanted to kind of like combine all of that into a bunch of different just one big shape instead of having a whole bunch of like different ones, right? So let's see, delete that. Gonna try again here. So all right, so make my stroke a little bigger here, draw that in there. Oh yeah, and the pencil tool doesn't really do that for you. So, all right, so here you go. So what we could do to try and combine these all together is if you, again, shift click on all of it, and then you come down here to this thing called the Shape Builder tool. It'll allow you to you can see it kind of lets you draw what shapes you want to connect together. And now it'll make all of those shapes like into like a new thing here, right? So, now I can move that around, and if I want, it's just become its own shape, so I could fill that in with a color, so I could make it, blue if I want to. So I've taken all of those things that used to be a bunch of different paths and fills, and I have just turned that into a series of points, right? So now this is all connected; they're not separated out the way this one down here is still separated. That is one thing, and this is another thing, right? So it just keeps me from having to like group things, and it also gives me the ability, now I could go in here and like alter this a little bit, right? So I could just grab the white arrow tool and I could start messing around with the anchor points, and I could add points to this whole thing, and it's kind of a way of like flattening something out into a big into one big sort of like shape instead of a whole bunch of little ones. So that's a shape builder tool. You can play around with it. There's a lot of options in there. Again, if you click and hold, you'll see there's some other options that live in that spot. So that's the first way to deal with shapes. Another way to deal with shapes in building a thing would be to use what's called the pathfinder tool. So let's say I have this really brilliant shape that I just made, but I wanted to like put a star in the center of it, right? Well, I have a tool here that's the star tool. So I could just I could draw a star shape, and again, if you hold down the shift key on these or any of these other modifiers, you can see that you can change the way that the star shape kind of works, right? So you can mess around with that as much as you want to, or you can just do that and then grab the white arrow tool and start playing around with different points that are on here, right? And adjust it as you would like to. So let's say I like that shape, and I really wished what I'd really like to do is have this shape kind of live in the center of that one. So let me change the color real quick. So, let's say I want to kind of punch a hole in that blue so that it's just this whole thing, right? So what I would do is I would just shift click all the things I want to have selected, and then there's a tool called the pathfinder tool, which is really helpful. If you can't find it, again, you can always go to window, and like if pathfinder's gone, you can go to window up here and then just go to pathfinder, and you'll see it come back up in your palettes. So if I there's a lot of options. So if I click on this one, it's going to basically cancel out the star and just go to the outside edge, so you can see that it's just going to kind of simplify it down. It's a little bit like what we could do here, right? We could grab this, click on that one, and now I'm going to have much the same kind of scenario, right? Since I have this path in there, I might delete that one. I could do this and click that, and now it's going to do the same thing that the other tool that we were using over here, the shape builder tool, was doing. So that's one thing you could do. Another thing you could try would be to, another one of these is, again, if I shift click all of them, right? Just make sure the star and the blue kind of shape that I made are selected together. I can click this, and now you'll notice that just knocked a hole right in the middle of it. So it combined those paths together. And so now if I click on this, and again, if I use my white arrow, you can see I actually have all these little handles. So I could go in here and adjust this, and you'll see that the yellow is basically gone. But this can be pretty useful for something like if I wanted to like make a shape over the top of one, or if I wanted to place this, someplace else on the composition. Now I've got a hole punched in the middle of it. So that can be useful. There's other spots that we could use, or other things we could try, right? So this one here will break this down and get rid of all the outside edge and just leave what was in the center. This one kind of busts everything up into again, different proportions, or just all of them do something a little bit different. So the divide one will do something different to it. The trim one, the merge one, they all do different kinds of things to our objects depending on what they are and how many things you have stacked together. So you can really go crazy with this if you want to, and just keep playing around with dividing up shapes. But it can be pretty useful in terms of let's say I wanted to try to make kind of like a heart shape, since we're kind of dealing with a card here, right? I could take this one and I could copy it and paste it, and then I could do something like that, and then I could come down here and make a a star tool and create kind of a star. And then if I did that, I could rotate it a little bit, and maybe this could be, maybe that could be a pretty cool kind of symbol that I want to create, right? And it's fine right now, it's made up out of all these different components, and you can see the different chunks in there. But if I just do this, and then I go to the unite option, now it's basically just one shape. Again, if I click on the white arrow tool, I've got all the little handles that I can adjust. So this is just a lot easier thing to play around with, now that I have a complicated thing that I've just flattened down into one sort of spot. So you can do this with strokes, you can do it with fills, you can do all the different things. So and another little thing to kind of know about that's really, really helpful is, let's say I have a bunch of these and I'm trying to make kind of a pattern, right? So let's say I'm just pasting a ton of these in, and I want to make a row of these across the top of this composition. I mean, I could just, sort of carefully try to line these up, right? You could drop down rulers, you could do all kinds of guides and things like that. But what the program has built in for you is it's built in a lot of ways to help you figure out how to do this stuff faster and easier. So if I just shift click on all of these here so that they're all selected, and I go to this palette called Align, this is going to give me a lot of options for how to align these objects. So again, if I just hit this one, you'll notice that it just dropped everything into a straight line, right? So that's a really nice, fast way to kind of get that stuff all aligned so it's all straight and even. And then other options are, of course, I could do the vertical align, the bottom align, all of that, makes sense. If I hit this one, it's going to just smack them all into a pile together, which you probably don't want to do. But you also have options to distribute objects. So again, if I click here on this horizontal distribute center, if I click that, it's going to evenly space all of these out all the way down the line, which is pretty great, right? And if I just scooted this one over a little bit, and that one, say I could go through this whole process again, select all of them, do this, and then do that. Now you can see that they all fit onto my page. They're all evenly spaced. It's just a really fast, easy way to use the alignment function. And then the other last little bit thing would be to, if you wanted to go in here to transform, you can skew things or move them around just by adjusting these parameters, rotation, but of course all of those tools are also contained, you know, over here. If you look, this is the rotate tool, right? So if I just use the rotate tool, it'll let me rotate that object around the anchor point that's set up out here. Or I can reflect a thing, so it'll just spin it upside down. And then there are also, of course, lots of other options, like the scale tool will let me, if I click on that, it'll let me make it bigger or smaller. And you'll notice all this stuff comes out of this little weird anchor point thing that's right here. So that's just a good thing to kind of know that, you know, usually to just resize something, I just grab it here and then I grab the corner handle and I'll just click shift so that it doesn't distort it. And to rotate it, I just let the mouse hover close to the object and turn it. But all those things are also hidden under here if you're looking for shearing or reshaping or any of that kind of stuff. So that is some of the simple, really cool things you can do with these palettes up here. Again, pathfinder, align, and transform might be really helpful to make a project like this one.